They said Aunt May died peacefully. But the locked freezer in the basement told a different story. I thought I was marrying into a warm, loving family. I didn't know they were hiding a frozen truth no one was supposed to find. When Mark and I moved into his family's old farmhouse, I'll admit I was excited. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment above a nail salon. The idea of living in a 3-story house, with wraparound porches and an actual fireplace. It felt like stepping into a dream. His parents had passed it down to him when they retired and moved to Arizona. It's yours now, his dad said during the handover. Just take good care of it. And keep the basement door locked. I thought he was joking. A weird joke. Maybe. But still. Mark didn't laugh. He just nodded and said, "Of course." That should have been my first red flag. The first few weeks were fine. Dusty, creaky, and full of weird antique dolls in glass cases. But fine. I started painting the upstairs bedroom and converting it into a home office. I was halfway through rolling on a second coat when I knocked over a half-empty can of primer. It rolled across the floor and stopped under an old wooden shelf. When I reached down to grab it, my fingers brushed something cold and metal. A key. It was rusty and long, like something out of an old murder mystery novel. When I showed it to Mark, he barely looked at it. "Probably just an old shed key," he said. Then tossed it in a drawer. But I recognized that kind of key. My grandpa had a freezer lock just like it when I was little. It was the same shape, the same thickness. I didn't think much of it until a few nights later, when I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I got up to make some tea, and while the water boiled, I wandered down the hall and noticed the basement door slightly ajar. That was odd. Mark always closed it. He even wedged a chair under the doorknob, like a makeshift barricade. I pulled the door open and peeked inside. Darkness. Cold air drifted up from below. I felt a strange chill settle over my shoulders, like the air was heavier down there. I was about to close the door again, when I heard something. A low hum. Mechanical. I knew that sound. It was the sound of a freezer running. I went back upstairs, told myself I was imagining things, and climbed into bed. Mark was already asleep, or pretending to be. The next day, I waited until he left for work. Then I grabbed the key, turned on my phone flashlight, and crept down the basement stairs. Each step creaked under my weight, echoing through the empty space like a warning. The hum got louder the deeper I went. And there it was. A large, industrial freezer tucked in the corner, covered with a dusty tarp and chained shut. The key slid into the lock perfectly. Click. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside were bags. Black trash bags, tied tightly. The kind that looked heavy. Wrong. I didn't want to touch them. I didn't want to know what was inside. But curiosity is a vicious thing. I grabbed the nearest bag and slowly peeled it open. Fabric. Old. Faded. A pale yellow nightgown. And underneath, a brittle, gray-skinned hand. I stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a shelf of paint cans. My stomach turned. My brain screamed, "Call the police." But my heart whispered something worse. What if this was Aunt May? The one they said died in her sleep. The one they cremated in a closed casket ceremony. I slammed the lid shut and locked it again with shaking hands. When Mark came home that night, I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. But he noticed I was pale. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just tired." He kissed my forehead and turned on the TV like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Because I'd seen what they were hiding, and I had no idea how deep it went. art to the family history they never talked about. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hand, the way the fingers curled, like they were still holding on to something. I thought about that yellow nightgown. So old it looked like it belonged in a photo album, not a freezer. The next morning, I told myself I'd dreamt it. I had to, because the alternative, it meant I was living in a house with a dead body in the basement. So I tested myself. I went back down while Mark was out for coffee. I brought gloves this time. I didn't open the same bag. I opened a different one. And this time, it wasn't just clothing. There were photographs. Old Polaroids. Some were faded, water-stained. All of them were of women, different women. Most looked like they were taken in the same place. That same basement. One was sitting on a mattress. Another was blindfolded. In one of the photos, a woman's face was bruised, and her mouth was duct-taped. I dropped the stack. I backed away so fast I tripped over a pipe and landed hard. I didn't even feel the pain. I just scrambled back up, locked the freezer, and ran upstairs. That's when the questions started piling up. How long had this been going on? Who knew? And why didn't anyone ever say anything? That night, Mark asked why I'd left the lights on in the basement. I lied. Said I was looking for a hammer to hang a picture. He looked at me for a long moment and said, "Just stay out of there." Okay. That part of the house isn't safe. I wanted to scream, but I didn't, because I still had no proof. No name. No faces. Just photos that could be come from anywhere. I needed more. And if Mark wasn't going to help me, I had to help myself. I started with old newspapers. I combed through the local library's microfilm. Searched for any missing women in the area. Any unsolved disappearances. It didn't take long. Tate County. 1986. A girl named Lily McCann, 22, went missing after leaving a party. Last seen near the Harrison farm. No body was ever found. I dug deeper. 1990, 1993, 1997. Same pattern. Women vanishing near the property. Some were written off as runaways. Others, the articles just stopped, like no one cared enough to follow up. I felt sick. My hands were trembling as I printed every article and stuffed them into a binder. I made copies. I hid one in my car, another in the attic, because I knew once I confronted Mark, there would be no going back. But I didn't get the chance, because someone else found out what I was doing. It started small. The front gate was left open when I came home one evening. Then the lock on the back door was scratched like someone tried to force it open. The third night, I heard footsteps outside the bedroom window. Mark was asleep. Or pretending again. The next morning, I found a note on my windshield. One line. Typed. Stop digging. Or you'll end up like them. I didn't show it to Mark. I didn't know if I could trust him anymore. Maybe he knew. Maybe he was part of it. Or maybe he was just another pawn in his family's sick legacy. But me, I wasn't going to be their next secret. I stayed in the house for 2 more days after finding the note. I barely slept. Every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind felt like someone watching me. I kept the binder with me at all times. I even brought it into the bathroom when I showered. That's how scared I was. On the third morning, I decided to confront the one person who might give me answers. George Harrison, Mark's father. I drove to his farm without telling Mark. When I pulled up, he was already outside, repairing a fence post like it was just another ordinary day. He saw me, frowned. USHOULDNT be here alone. I got out of the car anyway. We need to talk. He didn't invite me inside. We stood out in the open, wind whipping through the dry grass. I held up one of the old photos. I know about them, I said. The women. The freezer. The folder in Eleanor's office. I know everything. His eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed calm. You know what we let you know. Why? I asked, voice cracking. Why cover it up? Who are these women? Who did this? He didn't answer right away. Just stared at me like he was measuring whether I was worth the truth. Finally, he said, It wasn't supposed to go on this long. Ben had urges. Eleanor covered for him the first time. Said it was an accident. But after that, it got easier. I felt like I was going to throw up. You knew. You knew he killed them. No, George said sharply. He never said that. And we never asked. That's how it works. You don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. That's how we survived. I couldn't believe it. Generations of silence. A family built on looking the other way. You ray monsters, I whispered. George's jaw clenched. You ray not family anymore. You gave that up when you started snooping. Mark won't protect you. I got in my car and drove straight to the sheriff's office. I didn't care what it would cost them. I didn't care about pensions, or reputations, or how it would destroy Mark. They destroyed me first. I handed the binder over. Told them everything. The officer, who took my statement, Deputy Willis, looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. The Harrisons. You sure about this? Ma am. They kept women in a freezer, I snapped. I am pretty damn sure. He promised they'd investigate. But I didn't wait around to find out. I packed a bag. Booked a motel. I didn't even leave a note for Mark. 3 days later, the story broke. They arrested Ben first. Then George. The charges included obstruction, abuse of a corpse, and accessory to multiple unsolved crimes. Forensics confirmed the hand belonged to Lily McCann. One of the other bags held a necklace her sister had reported missing in 1986. Mark never called me. Not once. But I watched the news conference. I saw his face in the background. Pale. Hollow. Wrecked. I didn't feel sorry for him. He chose silence. Just like the rest of them. It's been 6 months now. I moved to a new city. I changed my name. Started over. Some nights, I still see the photos. The women with bruised eyes and duct-taped mouths. I wonder if any of them had someone like me, a sister. A friend who kept searching. Now I work with cold case detectives. Volunteering. Sorting through files. Hoping I can help someone else the way I should be helped sooner. Because secrets fester in silence. And I'll never be silent again.